Okay, so in this React application, we have three pages: home, login, and users. So we have some users here. Okay, so we will just implement the Redux in this React application. Okay, okay, let's go to the application. Okay, so we have some common header and some pages: home, login, and users here with us. Okay, and an app.tsf with this route and header, and we have some routing here with three components: home, login, and users. So with this basic simple example, we will just implement the Redux in this application. To implement Redux, we have written some steps here and what we will cover in this one. So first we will do add Redux library. Okay, so we will implement the Redux library in our website, sorry, in this React application. And second, we will create the store. Third, we will provide that store to the app. Fourth one, we will create the action dispatcher. Okay, and fifth, we will map the state and dispatch to the component props in which we will going to use. Okay, and last month we will use the example with multiple reducers. Okay, so we will just start with the first step is to add the React Redux and Redux library. Okay, so for that we will open a terminal and we will write the code npm install Redux, and second one will be the React Redux. Okay, so meanwhile it is downloading the library. Okay, we will go for the next step, which is to create the store. So for example, we will just create a store with the counter application. So we will just create a counter for increment and decrement. So we will just create a simple store.tsx file. Store.tsx. Okay. So this store file is now empty. So we will just create the reducer. So for Redux, we will have to use the reducer actions. Okay. So we will just create the reducer. For that, we will just rename like constant, and we will just create a counter reducer. Okay. So for that, we will have required two parameters. What will be the first will be the state, which will be 0 by default. Okay, and second will be the action. So type will be any. Okay, so inside this reducer we will create the switch case for each action type. Okay, in this switch we will pass the action dot type. So for the case one, we will use the increment and increment. For this increment, we will return state equal to state plus 1, means all the state plus 1. Similarly, we will create another type decrement, which will reduce by -1. Third one will be the case default, which will return default state, urgent state. Okay. So we have a reducer name counter in which we have switch case. For the action type increment, we will return +1 with the old state, which we have defined with 0. If you will define with 1, then it will, on the first increment, it will return 2. Now we will have to return this using export constant. I will then rename it, and I will rename it store, let's suppose, equal to Here we will call the create reducer from the Redux library. So we create restore and we will just pass this counter here. So we have successfully created our store with one counter reducer. Okay. Now our third step is to provide app. We will provide this store to the app. Okay. So for that one, we will do. What we will do? We will create the provider here. Okay. The provider will be in the React Redux. Okay, and we will pass the store here like this. Whatever store you have created will be imported here, and then after we will close it here and we will wrap this one inside this provider. Okay. So the whole application is wrapped inside this provider. So we have the store, we will import it from the store. Okay, so we have just created this store and we will wrap this store value to the app. Okay, provider we have used from the React Redux. Okay, so the third step is completed. Okay, now the fourth step is to create action dispatcher. Okay, so in the home application we will create the page home. In the home application we will create a simple bootstrap division with a class name row. Okay, and inside this division we will create call MD. Let's suppose 2 MD will be there. Okay, and inside this one we will use the props. So we will define the props here with any, and we will use the props dot. Let's suppose count. Let's suppose count. Okay. Now we will have two button here. Button type equal to button, and we will have here plus. Okay, and here on click we will call the props called props dot props dot. We have the props dot increment here. Say increment. So we have here the decrement here for the decrement. So we have a counter with one to increment and second to decrement. We will create the dispatch for this increment and decrement. For that we will create a function called function map state to top. Okay, what this will do? This will map the store state to this props of this component. Okay. So for that we will get here the state any, and we will return whatever the thing we will be required. We are renaming it count, and we will store the state inside it. And the second method we will create function map provider for dispatch to props. Okay, so here we will get the dispatch. Dispatch any, and we will return. Here we will create the dispatch of this increment and decrement. So we will do that increment. Okay. Here we will dispatch dispatch with type, whatever the type we will want to call here, we will call the increment type. Similarly, we will have to create the increment for the decrement. So this will decrement. Now the next step is to call the connect high order component from the React Redux, which will take the parameter this one and this one, and we will send the component home, and we will get the new component with all features set. So this connect is the high order component which we will get from the React Redux. Okay. So we will just pass the home, and it will create a new component with these values. Okay. So the counter is just created. Okay. So we have done this one, and we have done map state and dispatch to component box. Okay. So all the steps has been done. Now it's time to check on the project. So if you see on the browser, we have the state with initial value 0, and we have the counter, so it will initialize the value with increment the value with 1. If you click on this, it will decrement the value with 1. Okay, so the counter with the Redux state is working. So we have to check that whether it is getting on the second another component or not. So we have the incrementer and dispatch and value in the same component. So we will use this state in the header as well. So for that we will copy this one and we'll go for the header, and we will just replace this one, and we will have to remove this one because we don't need that one. Okay, so we will just use the connect from the React Redux. We don't need that one. We will need the header here. Okay. On the browser, you can see. Okay, we have to bind it as well. With here like notes, and we have to stop here. Okay. So we have the same state using in the header component as well as in the home component. So this is the home component and this is the header component. So if you increment this value,